this time, can we get all of the candidates for the city control?
Dave Martin, if you're here, please come over to the stage. Dave Martin.
Thank y'all so much. I have.
Oh, you're welcome.
Test. All right, again, we're moving into our second half of our Meet the Candidate Forum. We want to thank everyone for participating in the Coffee with the Candidates. Let's give all of them a round of applause, please.
Okay.
Anyone that has a question, just raise your hand and we will bring a mic to you so that you can ask the candidates any questions that you have. At this time, we want to introduce Chris Hollins and Shannon Noble. These are your candidates that we have in the building for city controller. So the city controller form, tell us.
Hello, testing.
Mr. Hollins, you can start with your opening comments.
Test.
Good.
Can you hear me?
If you could make your opening comments for about 3 minutes, please.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Fort Bend. I'm going to say that one more time. Good morning, Fort Bend. My name is Chris Hollins. I'm honored to be here with you this morning, running to be your next Houston City Controller. I'm a native of Houston. I love this city. That's why I'm running. But our city has some real challenges. We have more guns on our streets than ever before. It is harder to afford to live in the city of Houston than ever before. And on top of that, we have some serious financial challenges downtown. Predictions that in the near future we'll be $250 million short to provide the city services that you so much need. Now, I was inspired to service by my parents. I grew up in Southwest Houston. I went to high school right out here in Fort Bend at Hightower High School. But my parents set the example for me. My dad was a police officer. He served for 34 years with HPD. My mom was an administrative assistant by day, but her passion was children, and together with my father, she opened the doors of our home to more than 20 foster children. And so I've sought to follow her in their footsteps. And it was the honor of my lifetime to serve as your county clerk and your chief elections officer in 2020 in the most important presidential election of our lifetime. I brought innovative services like drive-through voting and 24-hour voting to make it as easy and simple and safe and straightforward for Houstonians to exercise their constitutional right to vote. And not only that, when our governor, Greg Abbott, came to try and take away your vote, we did not back down. We stood up and we fought and we won and we protected your vote. And that same vision, the same ability to transform the culture of local government to deliver real results for Houstonians, and the same courage to stand up and fight for you, to be your last line of defense when state government is coming to hurt the people of the city of Houston. I'm going to bring that to be your next city controller, your next chief financial officer. And in the same way that, again, we brought new ideas to what it meant to vote here in the Houston area, we're going to bring new ideas so that we can better serve you and better serve your family and better serve your neighborhood and better serve every Houston neighborhood. And so I'm asking for your support as your next city controller and look forward to talking to you some more this morning.
Thank you, Chris. Our next candidate is Shannon Nobles. Shannon, could you give us your opening statement, please?
My name is Shannon Nobles, and I am your candidate for Houston City Controller. I am a native Houstonian, a wife. I've been married for 20 years, and a mother. I have 2 daughters. I've worked in the Controller's office for 14 years. My current title is Chief Deputy City Controller. I've worked for the City of Houston for 20 years, and I say that because experience, knowledge, and integrity matters. Houston needs a dedicated public servant with experience in the Controller's office under her belt. We relied on federal funding, ARPA funding, to help balance the budget. $160 million was used. The budget is $6.2 billion. The City Controller's Office certifies the availability of funds. We make sure that the money is available and that it is used appropriately. This budget for FY24 is $379.2 million more than FY23. So the question is, what's going to happen when federal funding runs out? We need someone with experience. I commit to bring full transparency. I will lead the charge for more transparency. I am not afraid to audit any and every department to identify any fraud, waste, and abuse, including TIRZ, tax increment reinvestment zones. So I want to say again, remember Shannon Nobles, because we need a dedicated public servant with experience in the office. When you talk about federal funding running out, then you're going to have to figure out, how do we close the budget? That means you're going to have to either cut expenditures or generate new revenues. That's going to take experience, and I'm the person who knows how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. So we have a list of questions that we're going to ask the city controller's candidates, and then we will open it up to the audience to ask questions after that. So we'll start with this.
Thank you both. The first question is for Mr. Hollins. The city controller serves as the city's chief financial officer and is responsible for ensuring that the assets of the city are properly accounted for and expended in a manner consistent with applicable laws, policies, plans, and procedures. The question is, do you have any ideas on how to produce a comprehensible, detailed city financial report that anyone can read and decipher?
Absolutely. So it is the responsibility of the controller's office not only to provide an annual financial report, but also to provide monthly reports to the mayor and to city council. Now, if you're not, deeply familiar with numbers and with budgets, these things can be written as if they're in a foreign language. And so, we need someone who's going to be committed to talking to voters, to sharing messages with Houstonians in ways that you understand. And, I'll bring you back to my service as county clerk. When I was serving as your county clerk, we needed to get messages out to Houstonians about how to vote and the new ways that they could vote and the changes that were going to take place to make sure that you could vote safely. I'm looking around and I still see a couple of people with masks on, and it's been 3 years. Back then, if you recall, we were scared. We had friends, family members who were getting sick, some losing their lives, people losing their jobs. And so our number one priority was people's safety. And we couldn't just post a bulletin downtown and hope people got the message. We had to ensure that every single person across the Houston area had all the information at their fingertips about their rights, about the ways that they could exercise their right to vote. And again, we didn't sit and think about what to do as the status quo. We tried new things. People were watching a lot of TV then. They were sitting in their homes. They were on Zoom. They were even, worshiping through Zoom, going to church, going to temple, going to synagogue. We reached out to dozens and dozens of the major faith centers across the city of Houston. And we said, can we run nonpartisan informational voting messages during your service when you share your announcements? And in that way, we reached thousands and thousands and thousands of Houstonians. We partnered with local nonprofits. We partnered with the local media to communicate these messages to people in ways that they could understand. And so, look, when we're reporting out as your next city controller, it's not just going to be a bunch of numbers, a bunch of commas, a bunch of decimal points. We're going to be communicating to you about how these numbers affect your life, why these budgets matter to you, and why changes in the city's fiscal situation can either improve or challenge your life. And we're going to provide that information to you as well as to policymakers, to our mayor, to our city council, so that they can make the best decisions possible to impact you and your family. And so that's my commitment. I'm asking you to remember what I've done as an example of what I'll do for you when I'm serving as your city controller.
Thank you, Chris. Shannon, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can you repeat your question?
Thank you. As a member of the financial working group for the City of Houston, we work to create policies, and I would like to help people understand when we talk about the budget. The city controller is the watchdog over the city's finances. So when we're presenting the monthly financial report, when you hear terms like a structurally imbalanced budget, I think that's what people need to understand. Because when you are dependent on federal funding and you're trying to use a one-time funding source to use or pay for reoccurring expenses, that's going to run out. So when we emphasize a structurally imbalanced budget, that means when expenditures do not exceed revenues. I propose going to communities, talking to people, as I do when we visit high school. We work with a Title I high school, Wheatley High School, and we talk about Bank on Houston, and we go to them and we talk about the importance of saving and safe and affordable accounts. And I think it's also necessary to speak to schools, to go to churches, to visit community groups, to really help them understand, because when you think that it's okay, yeah, we have the federal funding, the budget is balanced, when that money runs out, and I want to keep emphasizing that, what are you going to do? Because we know that the Citizen Survey has said that public safety is important to them. So that means that we're going to have to cut expenses. So that could mean layoffs. This is what we're talking about, reality, things that could possibly happen. I would like to go to the communities to explain that if we don't audit, identify waste, look at all of those city departments to see if they are being processed or as efficiently as they should be, where we can find those costs and put those back into the budget so that we'll have a stronger, balanced budget. So it's going to take education, going to the community, and talking to the people. And that's what I'm committed to do.
Thank you. Shannon, part of that question is, how do you produce a detailed city financial report that anyone
Okay.
How would you produce a report that is easy to read and that we can decipher?
I think that just plain simple language. My mom always said just make it plain to where anybody, where a child can understand. And just like we talked to those students about financial responsibilities, I think that's the way we write it out. We can talk to communities when we engage with them. What are some of the questions that they asked? How can we make this more simple and to explain it in anyone's terms? As a child, if we're speaking to the business community, do we raise it? We talk more, about the acronyms, but to make it as simple for everyone, if a child were to read it, that they understand it. I think that's very important.
Thank you.
Follow-up question on the same subject. I'm I have a financial background. Curious if there's context given to these line items in these reports, so a common man can understand it.
Yes, there are. If you read those reports, you'll see even at the, and I hope I'm answering your question correctly, you'll see more details defining what the acronyms are, what the money is, what the revenue, the status of it, the update. Those reports even give definitions in the back of the book. It talks about special revenues and what those budgets are. Those are revenues that are used for that particular office. So it gives a breakdown of everything.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes, please.
I would say that far too often there is not a good enough explanation. You're seeing spreadsheets again, a lot of commas, a lot of decimals, a lot of numbers, and the numbers line up. If you had a CPA or you were a financial professional, you could understand them, right? But there's nothing in there, if we're looking at public works, that says, hey, if we're $1 million short, this means that this many potholes are not going to get repaired, next month. There's nothing in there that says, we need this amount of money in order to repair all of the broken pipes across the city. And that's the kind of simplicity, that's the kind of straightforward information that people need. And so the controller's office has to step it up in regard to that type of communication, to make it real, to make it plain, as Shannon mentioned, and to just make it make sense so folks can understand, and then so you can go downtown and hold your elected representatives accountable for better serving you and your needs.
Thank you. Chris, what would you do if you found an important discrepancy in a document provided by a top company executive?
So when you say a document provided by a top company executive, I would assume you mean a city vendor, as an example.
If you found an important discrepancy in that document, how would you
Can y'all hear me okay? It starts with asking questions. You go back, you identify the discrepancy, you go to the source, and you say, hey, what we had in our records was X, and what you showed us was Y, so let's talk about that. And you identify where this discrepancy is coming from, and then from there, it's, again, you continue to ask the question, well, why is that, and why is that, and why is that, until you've gotten to the bottom of it. Now, once you've identified it, could have been a simple error, you correct it, you keep moving. Or this could be intentional. Again, it could go as far as to be fraud. And that's, the number one job of the controller is to ensure that your dollars are being spent in the way that your policymakers tell you that they are. I think the next level from there is to make sure that we're being more efficient and effective with the spending of those dollars. But again, it's getting to the bottom of it, understanding where and why that error came about, correcting it if it's something simple, but then referring it to potentially, our DA's office for criminal charges if it gets to that level.
Absolutely. I agree. Questions lead to understanding. Understanding leads to awareness, and awareness will always lead to the truth. Shannon, what would you do in that situation?
What I would do is understanding my role. The city controller is independent. I'm independent of the mayor. I would be independent of city council, which means I have no ties to anyone. I work for the people, what's in the best interest of the people. I have experience working for 3 council members. I briefed those council members on the agenda, and I've worked in the controller's office for 14 years. So I know immediately and recognize inconsistencies when I look at an agenda. So what I would do as city controller, I would sound the alarm. I would meet with the mayor, disclose what I found out after our thorough investigation. I would have my audit team on it to investigate. I would sound the alarm to city council, and I wouldn't stop there. I would visit public session and sound the alarm to the public as well, and put it in writing. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, the next question is for Chris. If elected comptroller, it will be your duty to certify the availability of city funds prior to city council approval for various city financial obligations needed for the 2024-25 fiscal year. The question is, if you have any concerns about certifying these funds, what course of action would you likely take?
You don't sign it, period. They cannot move forward with passing a budget or passing any ordinance without that certification being in place. And so if the discomfort is there, then we withhold our signature. And that would bring about, more conversations. It would bring about more negotiation to bring the budget, in line with something that we thought was reasonable, that the city could afford to pay, over that next fiscal year. But that is the ultimate power of your city controller as your chief accountability officer, is the power of that pen. And so you don't put your signature on that document until your concerns have been allayed, plain and simple.
Thank you, Chris. Ms. Shannon, would you like to address that question as well?
Yes, when I've worked with 2 city council members, and I've witnessed that process up front where they did not sign the document. You make sure that your questions are answered, and if they're not, you don't sign the document. But we make sure that the money is available. I have personally reviewed contracts and managed the operations and technical services division, which looks at those contracts to make sure that the money and every detail is accurate. And any discrepancy, any inaccuracy, we will not sign or proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, in regards to time, so we'll still have enough time for audience questions. Last question to both of you. Regarding the sale of the city's public improvement and revenue bonds, what ideas do you have to how best to conduct these sales? Chris?
Sure. The issuance of bonds is a pretty straightforward process. And so, in terms of how, we would sell them and market them, there are tried and true, best practices around that. Ultimately, it's about bringing in that revenue so that we can put it into place. And then when those bonds come due, is about making, our monthly payments. And so, the most important piece here is cash and asset management for the city, so that when those bonds come due, we can pay them. That's what's ultimately going to protect our credit rating. But the bigger issue is then solving the long-term fiscal challenges that the city has, this structural deficit that we've talked about a couple of times up here, so that our bond rating increases and our cost of issuing bonds comes down. That ultimately saves money for the taxpayer. It allows us to do more for you, and we'd much rather be spending that money on helping Houstonians than paying that to investors.
Thank you. And Shannon, the last question to you. As controller, do you have any recommendations regarding the investment of city funds?
I hear people talk about their communities. We hear a lot of social, systemic issues that are going on. And so I would think that some of those investment funds can be used so that people can see the improvements in their areas. So I would like to invest in the city, in the communities, where people can actually see the improvements, and especially in some of those underserved areas.
Thank you so much. At this time, we want to open it up to the constituents. Does anyone have any questions? Just raise your hand and someone will come to you with a mic.
Good morning. The question is to each of you, but first, what is the city's bond rating, short and long term? And then number two, will you invest the cash, as we call it, in minority-owned financial institutions in the city, in the county?
Yeah, so our bond ratings, there are three different agencies. I believe two of which have given us ratings, and we're in a good place. I want to say, AA plus or AAA. Now, the other question. So just to on that, our bond rating is in a great spot. Now there are issues that are coming up. One of them being how we're going to pay our firefighters, and then over time, once our rainy day fund has expired, it's going to be about, again, how we're going to ultimately balance our budget structurally. And so we have to solve that soon if we're going to maintain those high standards. The next piece is, will we be investing in local and minority-owned banks? The answer is absolutely. There are programs by which, so the city is sitting on now about $6 billion in cash and cash-like investments. And we need to be making sure, one, that we're getting a return on that as we're sitting on it. Number two, we need to be making sure that it's available for us to pay our bills and to pay our employees when those come due. But we also need to be investing in our community when we can. That means investing in black and brown-owned banks. Very soon we're going to have another Chinese-owned bank open up. We need to be supporting folks in the Asian community that are investing locally. And there's now a women-owned bank, if I didn't mention that. But it's not about just making sure that these banks benefit. It's making sure that our communities benefit. And so when we put, CDs at a local bank, there need to be strings attached to that say, look, local businesses need to be able to receive loans from your bank. And oftentimes, there are a lot of major banks in particular that will gladly take your deposits, but they're not giving out loans in our community. And so we need to change that. And if our city is doing business with any bank of any kind, there need to be checks and balances where we are requiring them to make the kind of investments that these communities need.
Thank you. Ms. Shannon, do you want to address the question as well?
Yes, I would like to say we do have a good rating, and we received a great rating when we created the trust fund for the OPEBs, the other post-employment benefits. Our Treasury Division does a good job managing the $6 billion portfolio and the $14.2 billion debt portfolio. I do agree that we should invest in the community. The Treasury Division also invests in ESG, those environmental social governance bonds. So I think that's a good idea. So that's what I would add to that we're in good standing, and I think that's exactly what we should do, is invest.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question for the candidate? No more questions? Okay, we got one over here. Yes, ma'am.
I got it.
Hello. I'm a WBE MBE contractor with the City of Houston. Houston First, all those really great programs that have come through. My biggest challenge has been I'm often sought out by prime contractors, but once the opportunity comes along, there seems to be no compliance to ensuring that when they sought me out to compete for that bid, that they actually come through on their promise. So my question is, do you have any role to play in that compliance aspect, and how would you reconcile my concern?
The role I would play is I would like to audit. I think auditing will be the key to that. I've often heard women-owned businesses say, there's a lack of transparency. And I think it's our responsibility, even when I worked on the city council side, when there were different MWBE percentages assigned to a contract, And when they didn't meet that goal, some council members asked why, and they felt like it was just almost like a slap on the wrist. So I think that when we put pressure behind that by auditing that and making sure and making it transparent and putting that on the city's website to show how did they meet this goal, and even follow up with the minority-owned businesses to see what was that outcome. I think communication has to stay open, and I think we have to continue to audit and monitor the progress of those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And when people hear the term audit, especially when you're talking to the chief financial officer, they're thinking about dollars and cents. There is also a function within the controller's office that has a mandate to do what's called performance audits. Again, that's not just the dollars and cents, but it's how are we delivering on our mission? Are we meeting our promise? Are we doing what we said we're going to do? And if you look at what we're doing when it comes to minority and women-owned businesses as vendors, the city of Houston has a lot of improvement to do. In the most recent disparity studies, there were dramatic gaps in the available vendors that come from these different communities and the opportunities that they're getting with the city of Houston. And that needs to change. And look, again, what I'm going to continue talking about is innovation, bringing in new ideas and best practices from across the country. You can Google right now, New York City, they're called the comptroller there, New York City Comptroller, MWBE. And what they do, you can see it right now. Every single city department in New York City gets a rating, A+ down to B, C, D, F, on their performance when it comes to MWBE vendors. There's no reason why we couldn't be doing the same thing here in Houston with enough hard work, with enough attention, with enough prioritization. And it's going to be about just doing that. There are plenty of things that we can do where Houston would be the first. There are so many things that we can do where other cities, other municipalities, other states are already doing these things well, and we simply need to translate those ideas and perfect them here in Houston. It's the same thing I did as your county clerk to make voting as safe, as accessible for you as possible. It's the same thing that we can do here, again, to share those ideas with every single city department and then hold them accountable for delivering for you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Yeah. Hello?
Any other questions from the audience?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Betty Keller, one of the precinct chairs. And my question to both of the candidates, would this be our only job training for both of you, or do any of you know what you're doing when it comes to the budget?
I'll start. I'll say something. I am the only candidate in this race with experience in the controller's office. Thank you.
Where'd she go? Okay. I want to talk directly to you. It's a fantastic question. Listen, to be the city controller, you have to have a strong grasp of numbers. You have to have an understanding of how organizations work, because again, it's not just dollars and cents. Those dollars translate to people and to practices and to services that are ultimately going to impact your life. I spent most of my career as a management consultant. And what I did there was help government agencies to transform the way that they operated to better achieve their mission, to better serve the people that they were called to serve. Again, you have seen me in action. I brought that same approach to serving as your county clerk and chief elections officer. And let me tell you something. When I became your county clerk, on day one, I had never worked in election administration a day in my life. But I became an expert in that overnight, and I brought in more experts to do that work. And ultimately what we did was make sure that we set a high standard in that office and we held our people accountable for delivering. That's the same thing I'm going to do as your county clerk, not only in the controller's office, but across the entire city of Houston, to make sure that whether we're talking about traffic, whether we're talking about crime, whether we're talking about clean water, that you're getting this type of service that you need, that you demand, that you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to add again that the role of the city controller is to be the watchdog over the city's finances. And I want you all to keep in mind, there's going to be a new mayor. There will be new council members. So there's going to be a lot of movement and action on the agenda. You need someone who has experience in the office on day one. Not only, as I stated, do I know and recognize when there is an issue on the agenda, I can follow that from what the council members are looking at to the controller's office. I'm able to track that. So knowledge, experience, and integrity matters. You need someone in the office on day one who understands the job. I have personally protected and worked with the financial reporting division. We worked with all of those, the Treasury. We worked to make sure that the city's assets were safeguarded even through a major disaster. So it's going to take forward thinking. It's going to take experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris and Shannon, we want to thank you both so much for participating in the Meet the Candidates Forum. Your information was quite, the information that you gave us was very informative, and we had audience participation. Once again, does anybody have a question?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jermon Hamilton. I've been hearing a lot about audits. My question is to both candidates, but also to the extent of, with everything being centered around audits, I want to know what is the current audit turnover rate, or what is the current return on the audits that you have taken in place right now in your current position, and what is the expected return on these audits, or what are some of these actions being due to the result of said audits? Is there a transparency rate currently in place right now? You spoke on, getting into the era of transparency. I want to know what has been in place right now for the audit timelines and that transparency thereof currently in place right now. And to the new constituent that's running, what type of audit timelines will be in place, and how will we get transparency on those returns of those audits, and what type of actions can we see from those audits that are being, speaking about right now?
All of the audits are on the city controller's webpage. You can see when it started, what the findings are. You get all of that information. They even audited take-home vehicles. So you can look at what the savings, if people were not turning in their time or wasn't submitting their receipts and information for reimbursements. So we had to audit. They had to make sure, is the city receiving all of the money that it's owed? So we keep track of that, and if I'm elected city controller, I want to even increase the number of auditors that we have so that we can conduct more audits faster, quicker turnaround. But all of that information through the controller's office, which led the conversation about transparency stars, being more transparent, I want to take it even further to make sure that we not only upload that information on the website, but how can we send it out to you to make sure that you see the updates in real time, just as when it is presented to the mayor and to city council.
Just to continue there, you can go online and check these audits out. If you go back, 5, 6 years, somewhere between 6 and 9 audits are performed every year, and the controller's office tries to put out a year in advance, what it intends to audit over the course of the year. There's two things here. Number one, it's what are we looking at, right? And I'll give you an example. Our permitting office, one of the things that you go around this city, if you hear from the business community, there's complaints about the permitting office. They say, it's impossible to get a permit. It's costing me time is money, and so on. And it's not just businesses, right? Regular folks who are trying to make, regular repairs to their homes, they have to go through the permitting office. They don't know what's going on. It's confusing, and it's incredibly inconvenient, to say the least. The audit that the city controller's office performed did not at all look at how to speed up and simplify the permitting process. It did look at revenue opportunities to say, hey, sometimes I think we're not charging enough to the person who is asking for a permit, and that's fine. We should make sure that that we're charging the right amounts. But that's not what people care about. That's not what matters to the folks who are looking for these audits to get done. And so, again, we have to translate this stuff to real life. And then ultimately, and again, it's a very valid question, but it comes back to, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, did it make a sound, right? Our controller's office got to get a little bit louder so that we're having real impact on the direction of the city.
I just have to give kudos to our audit division. That team is a hard-working team. They produce those audits, even during COVID, working home, working from home, working in the job. I just want to give them kudos because they do a fabulous job letting the city know, letting the council members know, and they go through those departments with a fine-tooth comb. So I have to give kudos to our audit division.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, audience. Fantastic questions. We just have a few more minutes left before we have the mayoral conversation. Would you, either of you or both of you, want to make closing comments? Couple of minutes or less, if you choose to.
I just want to remind everyone that the city controller is the watchdog over the city's finances. The city controller is independent of the mayor, independent of city council, and that serves in the best interest. I am the chief deputy city controller in the office, the number 2 person in the office. So remember 2. The number 2 person in the office, the number 2 on the ballot. Shannon Nobles for city controller, Shannon Nobles for city controller, Shannon Nobles for city controller.
Thank you, Shannon. Chris?
Look, you need to remember that the number 1 job of your city controller is to be that watchdog, is to make sure that we're protecting your tax dollars from waste, fraud, and abuse. But it goes well beyond that, and there's a bigger picture. Our local officials have to be the last line of defense for this city as state actors are trying to do everything that they can to tear us down. We have to be willing to stand up. I'm the only candidate in my race who has stood up to Governor Abbott and won to protect you. Number 2, again, we have to be about ideas. It can't just be dollars and cents. That has to translate into your life in a real and meaningful way. And so not only will we be your chief accountability office, but we are going to be your chief innovation office, bringing new ideas and best practices to every city department so that we can invest more in you and in your family and in your neighborhood. I'm asking for your vote because in the same way that I brought vision and ideas and leadership and results to the county clerk's office to run the most efficient and effective election that's ever taken place in the history of the state of Texas, we're going to bring that same kind of leadership to you and to your community as your next chief financial officer, as your next chief accountability officer, and as your next chief innovation officer as city controller. God bless y'all. My name is Chris Hollins. Thank y'all so much for being here. I'm asking for your vote on November 7th.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a short break right now, and we should reconvene probably about 12:45 with the Meet Your Next, Houston's Next Mayor Forum. Thank you. another about 5 minutes.
It's okay.
And then we'll call all mayoral candidates to the stage. Thank you.
But I moved it from over there. That's to my phone. That was to my phone. But no, these sort of little line I have to both of them. That piece and that piece just charges.
Yeah, it's a nice system.
I just don't know what happened to the little tube. I know I had it. Maybe I dropped it.
Was it there when you, do you remember seeing it when you moved it out?
I saw it.
Well, it's bound to be here. It should have gone far.
It don't matter as long as the mic is still there. That's my battery. Yeah.
This is all my stuff to go through.
Right.
Can we stop the music for just a second? Thank you. All right, everyone, we want to welcome you to the last portion of our Fort Bend voters Meet the Candidates Forum. This section is going to meet Houston's next mayor forum. So at this time, we want to call all mayoral candidates to the stage, and we'd like to ask you to take a seat behind your name card. While we're waiting on the candidates to do so, I have a very special guest we'd like to announce, and it is one of the supporters of today's event. This is President Mikhail Howard.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to say thank you. And again, my name is Publisher Mikhail Collins. Publisher Mikhail Collins. I'm president of the Houston Farm Foundation. I'm also partnered with Brother Wiseman. Thank you, everyone.
And now we're going to introduce the publisher.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, we're going to do Cynthia first. Come on up, Cynthia. How are you today? Fine. How are you? How's everybody? How's everybody? How's everybody? Come on. Show me some love. Show me some love. We are just proud to have you come in. This is all about you, the citizens of the community, Publisher Butler, and Fort Bend Houston Super Neighborhood Council 41, and I, Chairwoman, Fort Bend County Democratic Party, wanted to give the community an opportunity to hear those who wish to represent them in city leadership. And we wanted to have it right here in the voter community that applies to the city of Houston. And thank you for coming out and encourage others. I put it on Facebook, so if someone had forgotten, then they can come out too. But again, thank you, and we hope that we are helpful in you making your choices for City Council, Comptroller, and Mayor of the City of Houston. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn this over to our other moderator, Steve.
Just a moment.
Come forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fort Bend County. Fort Bend has made the decisions on who is elected for the last 3 decades. I'm publisher of Lorenzo Phillips Butler Jr., the oldest continuous black newspaper and radio station owner, who along with my partner, Mikhail Collins, since October of 1893. Now, I've only been around 30 years. But I appreciate y'all realize the value of Fort Bend for the mayor's race, the comptroller's race, and positions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We want to thank the current councilwoman who pictures right now for sponsoring this event. And I would really appreciate the moderators from our Indian press and for my general press. And so, also for those, I'm also the Chinese Daily News. And so Southern Chinese Daily News, the Houston Informer, Fort Bend Golden News, and the Harris County Election News will endorse you. But you need to reach out to the publishers. Thank you.
Thank you, Publisher Butler. For those of you that don't know, my name is Denise Joshua Fleming, and I am the co-publisher of Postal Publications Family Magazines.
And I am Sid Kota. I work with the Anglo-American News in their radio program as one of the hosts. And once again, welcome everyone for the Fort Bend 2023 Fort Bend Houston Candidates Forum. This is the last part of our segment of the program. And first, please, from out of respect to what they're going to be talking and helping us, please silence your cell phones. Just a reminder, so we can hear our candidates talk and their messages to us. The second, all the candidates have been seated in alphabetical order, so everybody is getting their fair position at the table. The program is going to be where each candidate will be called out to give an opening statement for 3 minutes, and they will pick a number. We've got about 9, 10 questions that we have set up, and they'll pick a number at random, and we will ask the question corresponding to that number. Hope everybody is comfortable with that format.
Yes, you guys will be allowed an opening statement, and you will be given 3 minutes to respond. Now, ground rules being, when you get to 30 seconds, we're going to do this, and if you go over longer, I'm going to sound like the ice cream man. All right, then. So this should be a lot of fun, and we're glad you guys are here. We want to thank you for attending. Sid, you want to take the first question?
I sure will. We'll start with these opening. All right. How do I pronounce your last name? Brose?
Yes.
Derek Brose, if you would please address the audience with your opening statements, please.
Hold on.
Check. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you for having us here in Fort Bend today. My name is Derek Brose. I'm a lifelong Houstonian. I've been fighting in the community all around Houston for the last 14 years, mainly as a journalist, but also as an activist. Been visiting city council since 2010, getting to know council members, getting to know the previous 2 mayors, both from the side of coming down to Houston, downtown, as a Houstonian who cares about specific topics and community, from police to water quality to food deserts. And I've also done the role of journalist, putting a camera and a microphone in the faces of Sylvester Turner and Anise Parker and the current and former police chief. My campaign is very much about accountability and trying to expose corruption where it exists, or even if it's not corruption in the sense of pay-to-play systems, where things are just simply not getting done, either because the people's voices are being ignored, because the people aren't being heard. I'm running on several issues, the main one being that we should reduce the power of the mayoral position, or at the very least decentralize that power and give city council that power. Some of you might be aware that there is Proposition A will be on the ballot. In addition to city council, controller, and mayor, there's going to be 2 charter amendments there. Proposition A will give you the opportunity to vote to amend the charter so that if 3 council members want a topic to be on the weekly agenda, which means if it's on the weekly agenda, you could actually be heard, you could have some discussion and potentially some resolutions introduced. You will have that opportunity. So I want to encourage you to learn more about that Proposition A, whichever mayoral candidate you like. If you don't change Proposition A, you have to depend on the people on this stage to be a good person to listen to you. And I'm sure most of these people, as I've got to meet them, they are good folks. But sometimes when you get in office, things look a little different. Things change. So it's important that you as Houstonians, and especially out here in Fort Bend, that you have a voice and that your voices are amplified. So I'm running on that, as well as talking about issues like water quality, again, talking about food deserts and food insecurity, wanting to bring... Am I at 3? Okay. And wanting to bring more organic and community gardens and urban farms and food forests all over Houston, and especially in the areas like where I live in 5th Ward, where there is dumping, where there is a lack of grocery stores, there's a lack of really anything other than dollar stores and corner stores. We want to address food inequality, as well as I'm trying to talk about the HPD shot spotter contract, 30 seconds, the HPD shot spotter contract to which is basically a tool that they claim helps reduce gun violence, which is really, unfortunately, at the moment being rolled out in black and brown communities, and recent reporting shows that it's not actually doing what they claim. So I'm trying to bring accountability and common sense solutions. Please check out what we're talking about.
Thank you, Derek. So you have a question for him.
Oh, excuse me.
You can pick a number from 1 to 9, and I'll ask a question from the list of questions we have.
Okay, 7.
Houston, like most major cities, has a homeless problem and an affordable housing problem. Marginalized communities like Fort Bend, Houston often find themselves becoming the go-to solution to solving these problems. Oftentimes this happens because of the NIMBY, not in my backyard, protest that some of the more upscale communities engage in. So here's the question. As mayor, how will you ensure that affordable housing is built and spread out equally in all districts in Houston, and not just heavily concentrated in a district, such as Fort Bend, Houston? You got 30 seconds.
Thank you. The 2 minutes or 30 seconds, what do you say? All right, we'll go with it. I was happy to be at the Healthcare for the Homeless Forum with some of the gentlemen here last week talking about this issue, talking about affordable housing and how it's linked to things like the criminal justice system and the homelessness issues. Houston has currently abandoned hotels, abandoned business buildings, some of these even more after COVID happened. There is opportunity to look to cities like Boston and other areas which are taking these abandoned properties and working with the private sector to repurpose them to affordable housing, because the data's out there showing that the sooner you get people off the streets into housing, the more opportunities they have to take care of themselves, to get off of either drug addictions or get jobs, get the paperwork they need, deal with the mental health issues they might have. So the answer is, in terms of affordable housing, is to use the infrastructure we already have readily available. And I think also you can go towards permitting and try to make it as easy as possible when it comes to permitting to actually get affordable housing. And people are just going to have to recognize that, I understand the idea people don't want some of these buildings in their backyard. They think if you bring affordable housing or homelessness housing, that's going to bring problems. But if we're really going to be a city that cares about all of Houstonians, we have to recognize that more and more Houstonians are on the streets or facing homelessness. Thank you.
So you guys may have noticed that we pulled to the side here. You guys were introducing yourselves. Then we're going to come back around with those questions. So let's start with Gilbert.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. My name is Gilbert Garcia, and I'm running for mayor. First, I want to say thank you to Fort Bend for having this forum, and most importantly, thank you for including all the candidates, because I think all candidates deserve to be heard. And I think the city of Houston should make the decisions of who's right for mayor, not the media. But I really thank Fox 26 for being here, because I challenge all the media to start covering all these events and all these forums so that people in Houston can have an informed choice. So my name is Gilbert Garcia. Very quickly, because I use my time, I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm a product of public schools. My first big break is I went to Yale University. My second big break is I had a summer internship on Wall Street, which led to a full-time job. I worked on Wall Street for a little over 5 years, and then I returned to Texas in 1990, and I've been in Houston ever since. Houston was the big city when I grew up. It's where we came for vacation when I was young. I'm married. I have 4 children. I've spent a lot of time with my kids, coaching youth soccer. You name it, I've done it. Some of the things I've done in the city, which makes me qualified: I was chairman of Metro under very difficult circumstances. When we didn't have financial resources, we were able to secure our full funding grant agreement from the federal government. Thank you, Sheila Jackson-Lee, who just came in. And we completed light rail on time and under budget from there. We redid the entire bus network. We did all the things, transparency, got transparency awards, and were named Transit Agency of the Year for all of North America in 2015. As far as my business experience, I've never run for public office. I'm a business person. I think it's time for a change. And my firm has grown from roughly $200 million when I arrived to managing $21 billion, which is about 3 or 4 times the city's budget. So I'm very comfortable with big numbers. I'm over? Oh, I didn't see the 30 seconds. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I'll have much more to say.
Thank you, Garcia. Thank you. Okay. Let me first thank the organizer for hosting this wonderful event. And I want to thank all of you. I see a lot of candidates. I want to thank you for your involvement. My name is Nofel Hujami, and I did run before for mayor of Houston and for Harris County judge. And I'm running again for mayor of Houston with my wife for almost 20 years, and our 4 children, ages 8 years old, all Houston, Texas. I have over 25 years of experience as entrepreneur, strategist. I have been all over the world. I speak fluently many languages. I have been involved in policies at state, federal, and local levels for more than 25 years. I'm an inventor, composer. I'm a former Texas chairman and vice chairman of the National Executive Committee of the Modern Whig Party. We have over 55,000 veterans. Do we have any veterans in the audience? No veterans today? Still, we thank you for that. My fellow Estonians, last 3 years brought so many difficulties to all of us, from rising prices of food, electricity, rent, mortgage, all the bills. We all lost someone or something to the pandemic, but we always bond as one community. Regardless if you are a Democrat or Republican, we bond as one community. And we all saw that during Harvey hurricanes. When Mattress Mac opened his stores to all Estonians, regardless who you were, he opened his stores to help. That's Houston we all know. We bond as one community. We all saw that during festivity when the Astros won the world champion. You see Democrat, Republican, Independent partying together. We bond as one community. And that's why I'm running for mayor of Houston. I want to run it as a family because Estonians are tired of fighting. Estonians want to do business, want to grow their families. We can set aside our differences, but we can find a common ground to move as one community. Again, my name is Naufal Hujami. I'm running for mayor of Houston, and I always do say to my children and people, everyone deserves an opportunity because opportunity opens prosperity. So God bless you all. Thank you.
It's on now. My time hadn't gone, right? Thank you so very much. Let me thank the Fort Bend Democrats, Chairwoman Gagnon, the moderators for the opportunity to be here. I'm Sheila Jackson Lee. I want to come home to be your mayor. Today in Washington, they are commemorating the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. This coming Monday, I will hold a commemoration for us, and I hope you all will come as you hear the announcement for us to be together. I will not cede the point that Houston is divided. The only way we're divided is we continue to use the language that says that we are divided. I want you to see me as a person who will take Houston into the future, not based on my words, but based on my actions. I did not come to public service by just running. I served on the United Way board. I chaired the Interfaith Ministries. I served president of Black Women Lawyers, president of Houston Lawyers, member of the board of the Texas Young Lawyers, the first African-American woman to be on the State Bar Board. I found a way to serve, and I began the pathway of delivering and getting the job done. That's what I want you to see in this mayor's campaign and my leadership at City Hall. I will take the citizens to City Hall. I will follow in the footsteps of unshackling and unlocking the doors of City Hall. We will together develop an infrastructure plan, a good public safety plan, housing the unhoused, dealing with climate change, and making sure that everyone has access to health care. How do I know it? Because I've done it as a member of the United States Congress, and no one knows the federal government as well as I do. And the federal government has been the anchor for Houston. That is why we have made it over the bridge for troubled waters. The federal dollars that I brought here for the bayous, the federal dollars for education, public safety, I know the federal government. I'll work with the state government, the county government, but I'll make sure that Houston gets what it deserves as we move into the future for you and your children.
I'm Lee Kaplan. I'm running for mayor. Lifelong Houstonian, small businessman. I've been a success at everything I've done, whether it's high school, college, law school, or business, because I really do believe that if it's worth doing right. I hope y'all can all hear me. We're not sure about our mic. Can everybody hear me? I want to thank the people of Fort Bend for coming out. This is another area that deserves the city's attention. But I want to emphasize this is an executive position, not a legislative one. It requires people who can listen and can lead and inspire, and I intend to do that. You asked what my program is. It is to focus on the most important things, something I've learned in 40 years as a trial lawyer, which is doing something about crime and telling the truth about it, because many of our media have not, and some of our politicians have been less than candid. Number 2, picking up the trash. Number 3, permitting in a timely way so that we can have affordable housing. And number 4 is infrastructure. I don't know any Republicans or Democrats who want to be flooded out of their cars or out of their homes. All these things are important. The way I have become successful has been by listening. Our law firm started 3 lawyers and a secretary. We are now a law firm of 28 lawyers of all stripes, all colors, all beliefs, and 50 employees. And we are known for competence, accountability, and integrity. And I focus on that because I have talked to people, called 5,000 or more people, raised money, $2 million at least, from 2,300 people plus. And I've done it by asking them what they care about. Many of them say, they have to take a deep breath, and they say, nobody's ever asked me that before. And then they think about it, and they tell me what they care about, and it's usually those 4 things. Those are the most important. We can't be all things to all people, but we can do a good job. If people think the mayor cares about their needs, listens to them, and addresses them, then we're all better off. And when we're better off, more people want to come live here, which means more taxpayers to share the load. I don't believe in tax breaks for corporations based on unverifiable promises that they'll bring us more jobs. They might, but they should do it because this is a great place to live. Thank you.
I'll pick the better one. Good morning. My name is MJ Khan, and I'm your next mayor of Houston. Thank you. Look, guys, I am so honored to be here this morning, and I'm so honored to be part of this esteemed group of people sitting on this stage. And I can tell you one thing. Every one of us sitting on this stage loves Houston and wants to make Houston succeed and want to have the bright future for Houston. There's no doubt about that. Now you have to decide who is the best qualified to lead the city for these coming years. I'm a first generation immigrant. When I came to this country, I had nothing. I struggled. Many times, I could only buy 1 hamburger a day. So I know a lot of what's going on with Houstonians, some of them who are suffering through these crises. But we worked hard, played by the rules, and I've been blessed beyond my imagination. Houston has been great to me. I moved to Houston in 1980, and I love this city, and city has been great to me. And I'm so thankful to each and every one of you. Now, this job for mayor is the executive position. Mayor is known as the chief executive officer. Why am I running for the mayor? In simple terms, our city is going in the wrong direction. We have to turn this city around 180 degrees, and that's what I intend to do. All the problems you see, crimes, infrastructure, pay to play, flooding, all these are symptoms. You know what the real problem is? Mismanagement of the city, a bloated bureaucracy, and these play-to-play contractors who are sucking your dollars like leeches suck blood. That's what we need to change. City of Houston has $6.2 billion budget, and yet we don't have our infrastructure. Look at the police department. We have crime problem. Now what my solution is, and many of you can go to my website to see my plans, I want to add right off the bat $500 million to City of Houston budget, start adding 500 more police officers to make sure that we will have community policing. I want to have police department where community can trust the police department and criminals will fear the police department. I want to have a city where infrastructure is not an issue. 3 minutes, huh? Man, time goes fast when you're having fun.
My name is Julian Antonio Martinez. I've been in Houston since 1979. I've been celebrating my 45 year in marriage this month in August. I came to Houston because my father asked me, Julian, go to Houston to start your family. He said, my father, why Houston? You never been there before. So I did. I came. When I came to Houston, I felt like I was in heaven. Nice apartment, clean apartment. So anyway, I worked for dealer company. In 85, I opened up my own shop by myself. I've been in business for 38 years. Sometimes I don't sleep because I don't have the money to pay the payroll, but God always provides to me. The city of Houston needs a mayor with a faith, with a vision. I've been listening for 40 years the same talking point. We're going to fix the pothole. Look, myself crying in my business has been a tough for me. One night, I lost $100,000 in carrying the converters. 20 Land Rover, they took the converter off. One night, I went to sleep, and I was $100 less in my bank. What I'm saying is this: we're going to have to concentrate in crime. Crime affects everybody, the rich, the poor, and the high. Because every time you go to Home Depot to buy merchandise, you pay 30% more because they know somebody's going to steal something. My wife went to Kmart, to Walmart, to buy some soap, and the soap is locked. You go to the grocery store, everything is locked. We need to have somebody that work with the people. I love people, because that's what I do. I work 6 days a week, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. My kid, I got 3 kids. They all went to University of Texas and A&M. They're both engineering. Now they're working for me in my company. So this is the problem. No more politicians. We got some politicians that they want to promise the world, and you can help. You need to stop this. The Bible says, my people perish of knowledge. You need to wise up. Because I look black or Spanish or whatever it is, don't put me in office because I look like that. Put because I'm going to do the people work. I'm very humble. I made a lot of money, especially I want to thank the black people.
We'll start with Gilbert.
I'm happy to answer question 7 also.
All right, you want me to repeat?
No, I've got it. Okay, go ahead.
Can I do it for the audience?
Please.
Okay. The question is, Houston, like major cities, like most major cities, has a homeless problem and an affordable housing problem. Marginalized communities like Fort Bend, Houston, often find themselves becoming the go-to solution to solving these problems. Oftentimes, this happens because of the NIMBY, not in my backyard protests, that some of the more upscale communities engage in. The question is, as mayor, how will you ensure that affordable housing is built and spread out equally in all districts in Houston, and not just heavily concentrated in a district such as Fort Bend, Houston?
Sure. First, there's 2 parts to the questions in my view. One is homelessness, and the other one is affordable housing. I have learned a great deal about affordable housing because I myself am building affordable housing units in the City Gas part of town. And what I've learned is one of the biggest problems is the permitting problem. It took us almost a year to get the permit, and by having such a long time to get the permit, that's preventing affordable housing from being available to the public, and it also is preventing more property and more property taxes from being on the tax rolls. As it relates to homelessness, what's very interesting about homelessness is a lot of reforms started under Anise Parker. It started with the Sobering Center, which prevented almost 20,000 people from being arrested. It started with getting the whole Way Home, which is an organization that puts all the homeless organizations under one umbrella to communicate better. From all those efforts and with federal funds that have come in, we've now gone from roughly 8,400 homeless to about 3,200. We've made extraordinary strides. Because of my time, the most important thing that we're going to need to do is to continue to find the money to replace the federal money that we'll be losing here quite soon. And I thank, of course, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee for getting those funds, because it's made a world of difference in the lives of many people here in the city of Houston. So, number one, affordable housing, let's get the permitting process under control. Number two, we're going to need to keep doing what we're doing. We're doing something great, but replace the federal funds that are about to run out. Thank you.
Okay. Let's do my lucky number 2. Thank you.
Houston, as well as the rest of the country, is facing a housing shortage. One current solution is ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, particularly to address affordable housing needs. ADUs can negatively alter the character of suburban communities like Fort Bend, i.e. constructing potential alleyways and more parking problems, and can create unwanted density in a community. So the question is, if you are in favor of ADUs, what type of ordinances would you be willing to support to prevent these potential problems?
Thank you for the question. Let me just go to the point. I did my personal audit to Harris County when I did run for Harris County judge, and I did my personal audit to the city of Houston. There is no proposition gonna work. The first, we need to shorten the bureaucracy. We've been having the last 4 terms 4 bureaucrat mayors, and we don't want to have another bureaucrat mayor because the things are not going the way it's supposed to be. You keep telling me about proposition A or X or whatever it is. The first we need to do, we need to have a mayor with a business mentality, okay? So we can shorten the process for instance, when he mentioned about the permitting is a problem down. Now, we have the federal funds, like Harvey. When the money came, it's supposed to be used to fix the problem of drowning and all that flooding. It didn't went to that specific program. We were like last month with many organizations about the water use, that they want to help people to clean their ditch, to help people if your pipe blew up in the freeze, they want to do that. But they did not help them. Why? Because we have a bureaucrat system at the city of Houston that is not helping people, that is sending the money to wherever is the special interest group. So I want to try something new. Less bureaucracy. Let's give the money to the people, not to the political interest. And before I close, I want to say something very important that I'm supposed to start with. As a mayor of Houston, it will be no mandate of mask, no mandate of shut, and no mandate of closure of businesses or whatsoever. That's very important. I want to close this, answer this question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is for Congresswoman Jackson Lee. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I want to take the homeless question. This morning, I spent time with the homeless community at the Fishes and Loaves. If there's one homeless person on the street, there are too many. And I think in order to fight homelessness, you must do it collectively as a city, so that no neighborhood believes that they are now a place where persons who are unhoused are sent. In the last month in my office, we've handled almost 81 eviction cases. There is an epidemic of evictions in this city. The mayor has to be a leader and a person who can lead the bully pulpit with the right kind of attitude. That means all the stakeholders who deal with housing people have to be brought to the table to create a more effective policy for people who are unhoused. Unhoused persons are not the traditional homeless people that you would think. They're persons that go from place to place with children. And so one of the things we have to do is build affordable housing. There are small developers who can work to make sure that the affordable housing
is compatible to neighborhoods. Fort Bend, if they feel that they are a place that is put upon, should not be. But I know that there are generous-hearted people in Fort Bend who would welcome good housing to make sure that their neighbors have housing. How do you do this? You work with the civic clubs and super neighborhoods and leaders of Fort Bend. I've been endorsed and will be announced of all or most of the elected officials in this area. We will work together. Federal funding is not eliminated. American Rescue Act, the infrastructure bill will be in the funding cycle until 2025. We will work with federal funds and state funds to build housing for the homeless, such as the little houses. We'll work with Fort Bend to make sure that whatever housing comes in your neighborhood, it is compatible. We can fight this homeless problem, and we should fight it.
Told the mayor I was going to every part of town to seek their support and to ask what they care about. One of our biggest problems is that we voted for an infrastructure fee, and then it wasn't used that way. It was mainly used for potholes. Oh, is it down here? All right. Well, no, I didn't think so. You know, I don't have the biggest hands, so I don't know. But my feeling is that it's all about priorities. The money will run out. We need the truth about that. The private sector can be called on to help in some things like homelessness, but infrastructure is immediately and always a city responsibility. So I intend to simply go to the different department heads and go with them to these different places. One of the things you do when you hire a mayor is you're hiring somebody to hire 22 department heads. And we've had some fairly indifferent department heads. If I fault the mayor, who I think has done a pretty good job, he's been too reluctant to fire loyalists. Bill White hired really competent people, held them to standards. And that's the difference why an executive position is better than a political position. You have to make decisions, hire the best people. Dealing with infrastructure requires honesty, it requires metrics, and it requires accountability, that you actually make sure that people do what they're tasked to do. That's something that I think has fallen by the wayside in the last 7 years.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I will take the same question. Look, our infrastructure is crumbling. And like I told you before, there's a symptom of the bigger problem, mismanagement of the city and a bloated bureaucracy. I will run this city with a private sector management philosophy and responsible fiscal policy. Now, what will I do for these crumbling infrastructure? Right now, our dedicated drainage and street repair fund uses about $220 million a year between what the revenues are versus what the expenses are, operating expenses. I think revenue should be more if City of Houston puts their fair share and Metro puts their fair share, and the expenses should be, operating expenses should be low. But let's take this $220 million, right? We will never catch up with the repairs of our streets or the drainage problem with this money. What I will do, I will use this $220 million, go to the voters, ask them for me to issue a bond based on today's interest rate, that bond will yield me over $2.5 billion. And those $2.5 billion I will use to take care of these infrastructure problems once for all and catch up with that. Otherwise, we will always be falling behind. Regarding the homeless issue, I will use the model of San Antonio, Heaven for Hope, which they have done. I think that's a fantastic model. We should replicate in the city. For crime, I will follow what Dallas is doing. I think Dallas is doing a wonderful job. We should be doing some of those things. Thank you.
Homeless? Yeah, the homeless, yes. You know, I have a passion for homeless because where I live in the Southwest, in the last 5 years, everywhere. You know, she's been in power for 28 years. 28 years. Still, it's getting worse. So we don't need no more politicians. We need people that can do the people work. Look, I'm a simple man. I'm not supposed to be here. But it's time for somebody to get out of the cocoon and do what is right for the people. On the street, I'm homeless. I'm going to pledge to you that the minute I'm in the office, I'm going to find out where the money came from the White House. And then once I get that money, I'm going to pledge from my pocket one home for the homeless. Complete pay. Plus, I don't want to build apartment. People want to live in a house that they can touch the dirt. They can plant flower. They can put avocado, whatever they want to put on it. So the reason is the notion that we're going to put people in housing, they go, you know, crazy, like we said back at the shop. People need where they can touch the ground, they can see flower. On the street, you see the city people, I see them all the time. They started a project and they never finished it. And sometimes they send 5 people, 10 people to remove a tree that I can do my employee in 2 hours. So yes, it's a lot of inefficiency in the city. I'm a business owner. I see how much money I have and how much money I need to pay for. I'm a good businessman. 30 seconds. And besides that, I want to give thanks to the black people in Houston. They support my business 75% because they see I'm a good person. I give them good service. So I want to thank you, the black people in Houston, because of them, I'm able to be here because I got their back.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes, and we'll pick one more question that we requested. This is on the budget. Financially, the city is struggling to keep up with City of Houston taxpayer services such as heavy trash, potholes, sewage, drainage repair, etc. As mayor, how will you address budget deficits in some of these departments? For example, do you think adding a service fee for heavy trash and recycling pickup would be helpful? We'll start with Derek. You have 30 seconds, please.
30 seconds, thank you. I do think the trash pickup fee is something to consider if Houstonians want that. And everybody here has kind of already pointed to the solutions. You have federal money that's about to expire, that it's about to run out. You need more people in City Hall willing to work with the private sector when it comes to some of these areas. I don't think we should just depend on taxpayers when it comes to city infrastructure like potholes and some of the other issues that people are facing. So maybe trash pickup fee could bring in some more revenue as well as just better cooperation. A mayor that's willing to work with people in the private sector and who's willing to work with the council themselves directly.
Same question? Okay. Obviously, 30 seconds is very quick. If you want to know what I would do as mayor, my pledge.
1 minute? Yeah. 1 minute.
I'll take it on another one.
He'll take it in the next round, he says. Okay, so I got a minute. My name is Gilbert Garcia. I have a little bit more time then. If you want to know what my priorities will be, they're right there. My pledge for Houston. Please go read it. I was the first one to put many of those things on. Sign it if you believe in it. But first and foremost is we've got to instill best practices in our financials, which means do not use federal funds to balance the budget for temporary expenses, that we are making long-term commitments, but the revenue is temporary. Number two, I would audit the Housing and Health Department immediately. Anything that I see that the authorities have rated or have come in to investigate, I want to go in there and see if there's any leakage, because any leakage is money that's not going to the taxpayers. I would redo our entire procurement process. Looking at the airport system and the most recent procurement that they did 4 times is not normal. At Metro, I've known big procurements. That's just not normal. So there's clearly some leakage. I want to close those leakage. I want to redo the financials. I want to start focusing closer on the pensions, because there are so many wants and desires, we can't do everything.
You see why I'm telling you we need a new mayor with new vision? Because you hear all the candidates what they are talking about. Over 25 years, I did a report, audit Houston and Harris County. I submitted to the governor. They are not talking about making money. That's the problem of Houston. Because the permit is too long. It takes more than a year. I want businesses to come to Houston. Did you know that the microchip right now, they got billions of dollars? And Austin and Dallas, they got money to create jobs and build businesses, and Houston got zero. Why? Because we have a mayor, bureaucrat mayor. They put politics first. I don't care if you are Democrat or Republican or Independent. I care that you are Houstonians, and we need money. You want to balance the budget? Yeah, I'm going to cut here, cut here. No, you need revenue. I want Elon Musk to come here and open his headquarters in Houston. I want all the big businesses to come here. Did you know in San Francisco right now they have problem taxes? Well, guess what? I want to bring those businesses to Houston. So Fort Hood, we can have affordable housing, we can people working, and instead of people in the neighborhood that are committing crime, they can have a business built in these neighborhoods and make people work instead of commit crime. Thank you.
My hands in the last 2 years millions of dollars that I've given to this city. I'm proud of my 28 years of service in the United States Congress and additional years as a member of the Houston City Council. Right now we are in the 2024 budget. If we are elected to be the mayor of the city of Houston, we'll be in the 2024 budget that is already there. There are more of surplus dollars available for us to be able to do a vigorous budget for 2025. 2026 is when the mayor will have to address the question of a budget. I lead from a point of optimism. Every mayor will come in and do an audit of all of the departments. That's the most effective and efficient way of knowing what you have and what you don't. Has anyone ever asked the question, what does the city own? I will do an inventory of all of our assets to see what resources we have that can be part of public-private partnership. As relates to additional revenue, I'll come to the city, to the citizens to ask about the revenue caps. We won't make any decisions randomly. We'll do an assessment and an analysis of how you draw monies in. I will not make an immediate pronouncement about fees, because fees may be discriminatory against certain neighborhoods. But we will come to Fort Bend, we'll come to Southwest, Northwest, East, and West to make a difference in how we budget. Again, Sheila Jackson Lee will take this city into the future. Get the budget right.
Is this the one I want? Look, audits cost money. We know what the problems are. There will be a garbage fee. Somebody needs to be honest about that. There will be a garbage fee, period. And River Oaks and Tanglewood will participate in that along with everybody else. The truth is, we don't have a lot of money. That's why I think the controllers are so important. Chris Brown was ignored by Mayor Turner for a long time. And I think Chris Hollins is a capable candidate, and his opponent's a capable candidate, and I'll hear what they have to say before making decisions about what to spend money on. But it's important that we face this honestly and not say we're going to do an audit. That's a prescription for a 2-year delay in figuring out what to do.
I will not put a fee or take any more money from your pockets. You are giving enough money to the city of Houston. When I left City Council 2009 versus now, inflation and population only account for 1%. but our revenues, even on our operating side, are at least $900 million more over and above the population and inflation. City of Houston does not have a revenue problem. City of Houston has wastage problem and spending problem. What I will do, every department, I will put them management audits, personnel audit, process audit, performance audit, make sure all the money they're wasting is captured. That's how I will balance the budget. That's the worst decision they made when they used ARP money, federal money, to give raises to the city employees, and now we are looking at the budget deficit. I would have used that money for investments or reduce our debt. Now they're going to say, oh, federal government asked you to use it that way. I will first balance the budget without that money, and then take some money out and put it in investments. Thank you.
This is the problem. The Houston, they're very inefficient. Very inefficient. And the private business, they will make it. If you have to work every day to pay your bill, you'll be out of business. You'll be bankrupt. I'm a businessman. I know what it takes. All these people here, they live a good life. I work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. You know what? I love it. But you know what? There is somebody like that with a vision, with a passion to make it happen. It's not about me. When I die, I want to say, you know, Julian, I did my job. I went there and I fixed the people. In other words, I will put Houston first, like in infrastructure, train, buses. Those buses is a nonsense. Those buses only, you know who ride the buses in Houston? The people that have no cars, because I know that. So we need to have a way to find a train system to move everybody around, not just people that have no cars. I mean, I want to go to the airport by train. So I'm telling you, I am the real deal. Julian Martinez for mayor.
Thank you so much. Thank you all the candidates for answering the questions. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to have the audience ask their questions. So if anybody is interested in asking questions,
Testing.
walk up to this microphone here, and you can address your questions to our mayoral candidates.
So I would like to ask each candidate, if possible, just a quick question. I know that there's been large sums of money that have come in from the federal government, especially with Harvey and all these disasters that we've had recently here. How would y'all go back and audit where the money went and who's responsible for it? And if there's found to be discrepancies, what would be done at that point? I know there was a large allocation for the homelessness. We talk about homelessness. We do have a problem with that. But there was federal money that came down, millions of dollars to build a super center for these people. What happened to the money? Where are the structures? Why are our communities still suffering if these monies came down to Houston? And who is going to be held accountable?
How much time do we have for these? 30 seconds? 1 minute. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that question. And I agree with several of the things mentioned here. First off, Mr. Kaplan acknowledged that audits will cost money and will take time, but I do think it's worth the time and the money to find out where the money went in these different cases you're talking about, as well as Mr. Garcia mentioning the housing department being raided. There is clearly some issues going on with money behind the scenes, and personally for me, I think it's because the vast majority of the city doesn't vote and doesn't pay attention to what's going on, and so it's very easy for corruption to thrive in darkness when no one's looking. So you do need a mayor who's going to come in and willing to look at the books and to do an audit, even if it takes time and even if it takes money, to really get a look at what's been happening the past few years, not just with the homelessness issue, but through all the departments. Definitely an audit of every department. I think it is a standard thing for a new mayor, but particularly with an eye towards where taxpayer dollars are going and how we can fix that. And personally, I think probably most of the bureaucracy at City Hall that has been there for years now should be removed, and we should start fresh with most of those people.
Thank you for the question. And it's right up my alley. All you got to do is look at my pledge. Because at the end of the day, and I disagree with my colleague Lee Kaplan, who's a great man, I just disagree because if you have the authorities raiding the housing department and you have the authorities raiding the health department, there is something wrong. They would not raid otherwise. And at the end of the day, that's where a lot of the money flowed through. So my view is I don't want to wait for the end of their investigation. I want to get to the root of the matter because if there's any malfeasance, the public needs to know and we need to clean it up and clean it out immediately. And any malfeasance is leading to leakage in the revenue that should be going to the people and the citizens of Houston. And again, I would audit the housing and health because that's where clearly we have the biggest issue. And I would look at the procurement process again. I do believe we have an expense problem rather than a revenue problem. If you look, the revenue of the city has grown substantially, almost 85% since about 2006. But the revenue, the expenses have grown, the revenue has grown, we're not saving any money, we're not adding to police officers, and ultimately the population is not growing. We've now stabilized. That's not a good formula for the future. So I'll have much more to say about the future at the closing.
Okay, thank you. Let me answer you from my own experience. And let me go slow so you can listen to me very well. We got hit by Harvey. My wife, our youngest kids, we lost power for 7 days. We did not receive no help for the current administration. And a lot of people, they did not receive help until this time. And in 2019, you can go to our website. When I was with the local channel 2, you can hear my speech in the TV. I did my personal audit. I met with George Bush, the JLO. And he wanted to tell me, we give them the money to the city in Harris County, but they don't want to give the money to people to rebuild their homes because they don't want to make the market go down. They want people to sell their home. Let's call it gentrification, a legal gentrification. They want people to sell that home so the developers, friends of them, to come there and to rebuild them. And that's what's happening right now in Sunnyside, where my wife and I, we lived for almost 18 years. There is $500,000 houses. Last time I was in the Baptist church, I met with senior people. They said this is unacceptable. We vote for people for the same system, and they are not helping them. They keep giving you sweet talk. Well, I'm not doing sweet talk because I went through that, and I will not allow that to go through. The JLO, they gave $700 million. The city of Houston and Harris County, they refuse to give you the money, people, to build your houses, to keep your family together. And we keep talking about, oh, we are Democrat or Republican. This is nothing about Democrat or Republican. This is about being a human being, that you need to help people, that they need help. Thank you, and God bless you.
I want to answer your question directly. We owe you as mayor of the city of Houston to be transparent and to dig deep into any problems that may exist. So I think an audit is important just because anytime you come into a new set of circumstances, you find out what is going on, what is coming in, what is going out. I will say to you on the federal dollars that if there was this representation of mass corruption, believe me, it would be found by the federal government. All monies that we send here have to be reported to on the use of it, and it has to be approved by the particular agency. And violation or inappropriate use is a federal offense. So we can track the money by going back to the agency. No one knows agencies in the federal government like I do. The money is not drying up. Under certain budget items, it is. So the American Rescue dollars that came under the pandemic, but you still have additional bipartisan infrastructure dollars that will be in the cycle until 2025. One thing that Houston has not done is draw down the monies they deserve. We send a lot of money to Washington. We need to make sure we get that money back. And it can do a myriad of things, from our environment, huge dollars in the Inflation Reduction Act for environmental centers in our neighborhood. I will know how to access those dollars to complement our budget dollars and to make sure that you get as much as you deserve in the services that you deserve in the city of Houston. Watch me. I'm taking this city into the future. Thank you very much.
We already have an aggressive DA. She's shown no reluctance to indict public officials and employees. We have a young U.S. attorney who's aggressive. The city doesn't need to spend money on audits when those people are out there already doing the job they were hired to do. And any mayor comes in and gets input from other employees, as I have along the way when I've called people and asked them what's wrong with the city. We don't need more audits. They cost more money. We need to appoint good people. That's what a mayor does. Good leadership in the different departments will make a difference. And as for the Harvey money, we're missing $400 million of it because one of the absent candidates who's promised we'd get it has not had a sufficient relationship with other members of the legislature, including the the new land commissioner, to get that money. It's not there. We need to face facts and not waste our money on what looks like something that's good for the public, but is just showtime.
Thank you, ma'am, for asking this question, because you are right. There is a lot of corruption going on in this city. And it is not just the city of Houston. You look at Metro. Have you gone to Galleria and see the bus line they have put in Galleria? Only 900 people are riding it when they promised that over 15,000 will ride it. That's over $200 million of your money down the drain. I will hold them accountable. I will hold Metro Board accountable, and somebody better answer to me why that consultant was used to give those numbers. So yes, every department, everybody in the city better works for you and make sure that every dollar is properly accounted for. As far as Harvey money, I know how to negotiate with state leaders. I know how to get our fair share, because it will not work when you have toxic relationship, when you call names. The politics should be over after the election. That's when the governing works, and governing needs a leader who has a proven track record of leadership like MJ Khan. And my experience and my working with the city and working with the community is what is needed, a leadership which gets the results done. Thank you very much.
One, two, 1, 2. Now we are. Listen, it's very simple. The city of Houston has a spending problem. There's a lot of money going there hiding somewhere. And when I become your mayor, I promise I'm going to find it. I'm coming from the private sector. It's going to take me 90 days to find the money. You know, follow the money that they said. I'm going to find it. I'm going to hire 5 or 6 accounting, and they're going to look through the papers and go through it. We don't wait 2 years. 90 days, I guarantee it, I'll find the money. And when I find the money, if it's not there, I'm going to hold whoever is spending accountable. We need to do that. We need to stop. Money is too hard to make. I had to work a lot of hours to make some money. The water bill in my house was $600 in 1 month. Think about it. We're going to back to the Stone Age. The lion is too expensive. So we need to have somebody there that's on common sense, not a politician. Somebody that has the heart for the people, and I am. I guess you can feel my spirit, because I have a deep faith and hope and conviction what's going to come. I believe day one, once I get to the office, the temperature can come down, because my spirit, my energy, it's like that. If you want to see me at work, come and see me. I'm the same all the time, and I hug everybody because I love people, and they give me energy. So I'm going to make the city safe again. I'm going to make the city healthy again. And I'm going to make the city in the flood. I have a plan for the flood, for crime and everything. So vote for me, remember.
Thank you. We have one more question, one final question. Okay.
Real quick, my question is more about economics and accountability. When we talk about contracts, kind of like my man said, it's not about Democrat or Republican. We have more black officials than we ever had before. We got black mayor, more black city council than we ever had before. You got Miss Sheila, you got your Al Greens. And one thing we realized, Rodney Ellis had a study, and black people only receive 0.5% of the contracts within this city. And we spent $700,000 to somebody else to tell us that. The city also spent another $1.2 million on a study that we'll never see the results from. So when we talking about accountability of our contracts and our black people, and we right here in District D, like I say, we see streets going on, we see new centers popping up, we see all these different things happening with our parks, but not one black vendor. What do you plan to do to bring this and make this more equitable when it comes to black people and other black people getting contracts in the city using? And please don't use not being able to find them, because we reached out to other representatives and other people about Touch Point and these other people that represent our TERS and our groups. And we say, hey, we can help you find these vendors. Not only will we help you, but we pulled a city list and also called out and reached out to black vendors, and knowing that they have the capacity, which is the word that they use, in order to do these contracts. So what is your plan to make it more equitable when we talking about more people getting contracts? And we're not talking about diversity. We're not talking about this. We're talking about black people. I'm talking about black people, not an inclusion of what we feel like it is. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you for that question, Mr. Ford, was it? Yeah, good to meet you, man. I'd love to talk to you more about those studies you found afterwards. Obviously, I can't speak as a black man, but I appreciate you coming up here and sharing your experience, and I think that's unfortunate those stats you just shared and the studies are happening under a black administration. I do think that really, you just need somebody in office who's willing to communicate. And you're talking specifically about the black community, somebody who's willing to talk to those individuals who want to get contracts and the vendors. And you know, it shouldn't just be if you've got friends at City Hall, you're the ones that get the contracts. And that's what we've been seeing under this current administration and previous administration. So I think the problem you're pointing to is just probably one example, and there's probably many more examples of communities that are being ignored. So I mean, to me, the simple answer is just you need people in office willing to come say, hey, let me talk to you. You clearly know people. You know people who are applying for these contracts, trying to get work done, trying to do good and bring money into the community, into the city. Why is there a disconnect there, right? So I think that's really the root of that problem. Somebody in office who's willing to say, I'm going to come sit down with you and talk with you, not just, you know, have slogans. Thank you.
I feel you. We're a certified MWBE firm ourselves, and so I totally get it. It's all about making it a priority, and if I were mayor, I certainly would make it a priority. Regrettably, I'd like to use my time a little bit, and I mean no disrespect to Mr. Khan, but it's just not correct at all. The Uptown, that bus rapid transit line is not a metro project. It was built by the Uptown TERS. It was built and designed by the Uptown TERS. It was funded also partially by HGAC and partially by the TxDOT. What Metro does is it does the buses, we bought the buses, and it has pays for the drivers. And again, what it's all part of is to implement the will of the voters who voted for transit on that corridor multiple times. So I just want to clear the record. The other thing is the numbers won't be fully realized until the entire system is complete. And the system is not complete. You've got the east side where rail is, you got the bus rapid transit on the west side, you have to connect them. And the ridership won't be there until it's complete. I just want to correct the record. I mean no disrespect.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah. See, that's the mindset which is the problem. They say, oh, we use TERS money, as if TERS has had some daddy which they left inheritance to the TERS. It's all taxpayers' money. And why did the Metro do a project? Even if it was TERS money, why did the Metro do the project if that project was not right? That project is a failure. Admit it, Metro, and come clean to the city of Houston. And don't say, oh, just because it is this pocket, we can waste that money, and if it goes this pocket, we cannot. So whether it is TERS money, City of Houston money, Metro money, it is all money from your pocket. And we as officials who are responsible for the dollars must make sure that we make wise decisions for every dollar which your taxpayers are giving it to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My origins are from North Africa. Technically, I'm an American African. We live for more than 18 years in Sunnyside in the heart. Our 3 youngest kids, you can look at them there, they're born in Sunnyside and they go school in Sunnyside. I just want to make sure that I will answer the question of my friend. First of all is the bureaucracy. You have a problem, okay? The system in City of Houston, I look at it, I did the audit, bureaucracy is bad. 2, they are given political interest. They see who is the player, who is the donor. This is the truth, we cannot hide it. You all can do it. 3, like I said, everyone
deserves an opportunity because opportunity opens doors for prosperity. I don't care if you are Democrat or Republican or independent. I care that you are Houstonian. Why? I want Houstonian to do business, not to fight each other, not to bring conflicts to distract us from our current problems, especially with this high inflation. We all got hit very badly with this high inflation. We lost too much money. Everybody lost something, and you cannot hide it. Even if you are a rich millionaire, you lost money. So imagine the people low income, how they are feeling. Let me go back to my friend. I want Elon Musk, big companies, to come to the neighborhood, to Sunnyside, to Acres, to open businesses. And in the contract, they will hire people from the hood and give them the contract. That's what I wanted. That's what I'm going to do. God is my helper.
I have a proven and documented record of recognizing small minority and African American, Hispanic, Asian, and many others around the table of opportunity in the federal government. When you represent the city, you have to ensure that everyone has a seat of empowerment, that no one can be left out. I think the studies that have been done are effective studies, and we have a very, very responsive community. They believe in equality. And when they see the disparities between certain groups, I won't have a problem working with my city council to ensure that we have the kind of representation on the various projects used by tax dollars. When you use tax dollars, you create jobs, but it's the tax dollars of everyone. And so no one should be left out of construction, engineering, professional services. I knew all of that and did all that as a member of the Houston City Council. I helped get a very large participation in our wastewater project when I was on City Council. Every legislation in Washington, I ensure that there is opportunity for minority participation, which includes African Americans and women. So I'm ready for the task. I've already proven it. This city will be a city of energy and economic empowerment when everyone gets an opportunity. I'll assure you, Mr. Ford, I think it is, that you'll have an opportunity. Thank you so very much.
Well, the question was about accountability and minority businesses. First of all, who here has tried to use the city website for minority contracting? I've tried to use it for various things. It's a nightmare. That's the open window, the first open window to the city. And people can't use it. That's something that deserves more attention. Second, call me. If I'm mayor, just call me. That's the way I've raised money. I've been in touch with people and asked them what they care about. I've been assistant scoutmaster, Troop 212. I'm the only white guy anywhere near that troop. Didn't do it because I thought I'd run for mayor 8 or 9 years along the way. I just did it because it's a troop that needed help. And many of the fathers and mothers there actually try to do business with the city. So I am in touch with them and those issues. And so I'll just say again, call me. I'll listen and see to it that people who deserve to get contracts get them.
I had the honor to work with Ada Edwards, one of the finest person in Houston, one of the finest council member. And we worked on MWBE committee and we made a lot of improvements. But now I think there is a problem because even in the MWBE plan, you will see some favorite contractors and rest of the people don't get opportunities. So we need to open it up, open the doors for other minority-owned business and women-owned contractors to get into the system. Second thing, I think the mention about, look, I am from Muslim community, Pakistani community, but this is what I tell them. I said, if you are supporting me and voting for me because I pray like you or I look like you, that is wrong. If blacks only vote for blacks and white only votes for whites, Hispanics only votes for Hispanics, there are not enough handsome bald guys to elect me. So I say that we need to make objective criteria. Who has the business experience, financial expertise? I have an MBA from Rice, so my business experience, financial expertise, my knowledge of the city because I was the city council for 6 years, my leadership in the community, my ethical standards. I will run the city with the highest ethical standards. If you make your decision based on objective criteria, you will come to the conclusion that MJ Khan is the best choice for the mayor right now. Thank you.
That was a good question. You know, every time it's a mayor race or presidential race, whatever, the black people vote for black people. And they expect a different result. That's insanity. You need to stop being wise and just vote with your conscience and your knowledge. Because it's true. Every time there's an election, you give them the vote. Please, don't do that anymore. As a mayor, I want to make sure that the pizza is spread evenly. The contract is going to be divided evenly. And if you don't have the equipment to get it, I will listen for you. But everybody should have a seat on the table. That's what God's supposed to do. We're supposed to empower people. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter. We need to do what is right. You know why? We are going to die. Everything will stay here. Nobody can take the money with you. So why not help the people, especially in my area? I see a lot of need in there, a lot of homeless, a lot of people that they have no food to drink. They come to my business, and I try to help it as much as I can. So yes, the mayor is very important. Please, vote with your conscience. Look at myself. I am in Houston. It's a ethnic group. Okay.
I also want to thank the audience for being here today. Big round of applause. This is for you. I want to thank all the volunteers that were able to make this happen, the news media coverage, and I also want to thank the supporters, the Fort Bend Democratic Party, the Fort Bend Houston Super Neighborhood Council 41, and the Fort Bend Voter News and Harris County Election News. Candidates, we'd like to ask that you guys remain seated so we can take some pictures. Can we get a closing statement?
No.
30 seconds.
No.
We have time for closing statement?
No.
30 seconds?
Yes.
No.
30 seconds?
30 seconds.